Hello YouTube and welcome to another video. This is one that a lot of you have been waiting for a long time. In my hands I have a solid carbon fiber 6mm thick bed plate that weighs in at under 2 pounds. And the most exciting news is that these are going to be for sale. For those of you who are just interested in that, feel free to skip to the end of the video for details. For the rest of you, enjoy the video. I haven't been filming a whole lot, but I've been keeping fairly busy working on X2 stuff. The bed plate mold is almost ready to make another bed plate, and this time it's going to be out of carbon fiber. I made these little aluminum inserts to indicate where the holes need to be drilled. The last setup that I had made the cloth kind of poke up, which caused a lot of finishing work need to be done once the bed plate was actually made. I fixed a little spot here, and also put a skim coat on these two areas and sanded them down. So pretty much all I need to do to this now is sand it with a little bit finer sandpaper, and then buff it and add some wax to it, and then I can make the final part out of carbon fiber. I did a little bit of sanding and polishing on the bed plate mold, and it is looking really good. Now I'm going to clean it off with alcohol, let it dry, and then apply the mold release. I just finished putting the last coat of wax on this, and I've got my table set up. I'm going to start cutting out the carbon fiber material. An hour and 2 minutes later, and I have 12 pieces of the 6-ounce carbon cut out. And I've got my calipers to check to see how thick it is, basically to do a sanity check. The more I compress it, the thinner it will be, but this will give us an idea. Yeah, so if I compress it a little bit, it's 3. If I let go on the calipers, it's 3.17. Yeah, so right around 3 millimeters. I just finished putting down 2 layers of the 6-ounce carbon, and it took me about half an hour. I'm now about to put on a layer of unidirectional. I'm kind of nervous about that because I've never used it before. This is what I came up with for laying the unidirectional, and even though I'm not 100% happy with it, it's gonna have to do. It's going to be extremely strong. This stuff is going to be ridiculously strong in this direction, so definitely not going to be a strength issue. Just more or less the way that it looks on the bottom might be a little messed up. With that being said, I'm going to start laying the 6-ounce cloth, and I have at least 4 layers to go before I put on the next one. I need to do the math and figure out exactly where I want to put the next layer of unidirectional. I now have 4 layers of the 6-ounce on top of the last piece of unidirectional, so I'm ready to put down my next pieces of unidirectional, and I'm going to lay them sideways. In order to make this actually work, I think what I'm going to do is lay the pieces in 1-inch strips. There we have it. I got the unidirectional down. It went on in, let's see, how many pieces? 7 pieces, I believe. It's a bit of a mess, but I think it's going to work just great. I ran 1 solid piece over where the bolt holes go for the engine mounting. So 1 solid piece through here, 1 solid piece through here, and then where the motor mounts go on, I ran a separate piece through this area and this area. So solid pieces. This thing is going to be incredibly strong. I'm going to do this next layer of unidirectional a little bit different than I did the first layer. The second layer, obviously, I laid it across this way. But this bottom layer, the last layer of unidirectional, is going to go widthways. So this is what I've decided to do. I actually laid these strands on here first, and now I'm going to lay these pieces on top. So that's going to tie everything together and make it incredibly strong throughout this area. So I've got basically a 3/4 inch piece of carbon unidirectional there. And now this is I think about 2 inches. Let's see, let's measure it. Why not? That is exactly 2 inches. So I've got 3/4 inch piece there, and then I'm going to have a 2-inch piece here overlapping through this area, 2-inch piece here, and then a 2.5 or 3-inch piece down through the center. As you guys can see, I got the layers of unidirectional down. It turned out extremely well. I wish I would have done the first layer this way, but it really doesn't matter. It's only cosmetic, and it's in between stuff that nobody can see anyway. Yeah, I have 3 layers left of the 6-ounce cloth left. I was only going to put 2 layers over the top of this, but for cosmetic reasons, I didn't want these seams showing up, so I decided to go with 3 layers instead of 2. I could have put 4, but I wanted to keep the unidirectional as close to the surface as possible without printing through. So I'm going to shut up now and get this done. And once I get the carbon put on, that means I can start prepping the mold. I think I will be able to actually bag this up and pull a vacuum on it tonight. 9:40 p.m. and I started this around 1:30 p.m. This is the pile of fiberglass that I cut off of the edges and stuff. And this is the mess that I have. I got a little bit of unidirectional left over. I've heard people talking about this stuff and saying that it's very thin and easy to puncture. And now that I actually see it, that is a concern for sure. It is considerably thinner than the stuff that I used last time. I'm kind of nervous to use it actually. It is now 1:30 in the morning, 1:33 in the morning. And I've got this all bagged up. I haven't put the infusion line in yet because I'm testing the system before I do that. Here's hoping that it holds a vacuum overnight, and even more so that this part actually infuses and I get a usable bed plate, because there's a lot of money's worth of material in there. I'm now going to mix up the epoxy. I'm going to need about 800 grams. I've calculated that by weighing the carbon fiber, but I have cut a lot of it away. There is going to be some waste in the lines and whatnot, so I'm going to mix up basically 3 batches probably of 300 grams. If I were to mix up the full 800 grams of epoxy and pour it into a cup, basically when the part was halfway done, that would be about half an hour of time elapsed, and that 400 grams that had sat there for half an hour would start to get extremely hot, and it would actually harden before the next hour or half hour had passed. So I'm going to try to infuse this fairly slowly and hope that it actually goes through to the mold surface. I know I went over this last time, so I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot this time, but I'm just going to get into it. The mold is holding about 26 inches of mercury now. When I tested it last night, the barometric pressure was different, and I was only able to pull about 25. Hey, big spender. That's right, folks. Big budget productions here. So now I can use my infrared gun and my scale at the same time. I'm actually kind of surprised that there's that much gas coming out. One of the things about Infusion epoxy is supposed to be that it doesn't off gas a lot, so I don't know, it could mean that this isn't the best quality Infusion epoxy, or it could just mean that they expect you to degas it ahead of time. So it's gone up a couple of degrees just from doing that. So not gonna waste any time, gotta get started here. All right, time to set a timer. I'm going to very slowly open this valve. Last time I did it a little too quickly, or the line actually got stuck, and then it all kind of burst through really quickly. So I'm gonna try to avoid that happening this time. I'm gonna try to do it. Oh, yeah, it's gonna happen again. All right, so. Oh, I can see it coming through here. I'm gonna make sure to keep doing it quite slowly. A lot less bubbles happening this time. So that is good news. All right, I'm gonna infuse it a little bit faster until we actually get to the point where it's filled these lines. All right, let's open this up a little bit more because I think it stopped. I gotta go get Quasar, he's stuck. Let's go see what he's up to. Oh, what are you doing, buddy? What are you doing? Good boy. You just need attention. You just need attention. As you guys can hear, I have the pump running again. Everything seems to be going fairly well, except that I didn't restart the timer. I'm getting a lot less bubbles coming up to the surface this time. I don't think I was able to capture it on camera. I tried, but it didn't actually show last time. But the last time I could actually see a lot of bubbles in the line, and I could see a lot of bubbles here. So degassing the epoxy definitely helped a lot. So still, I'm not totally sure that this is going to infuse all the way through to the mold surface. I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope. But what was I going to say? Oh yes, I was going to show you guys the resin break. So I talked about making a resin break in the last video, and this is kind of what I'm talking about. So you can see the infusion mesh stuff here, the green stuff that goes over the top. And you can see where it's not used here, and it's quite clear the epoxy came in here and hit that stuff and basically stopped. It took about an hour to go across. It didn't take nearly as much epoxy as I thought it should. But yeah, I'm gonna keep pulling it through and see what happens here. I might actually open this up a little bit. Fingers crossed that this works, but it definitely, in my opinion, is not looking good at this point. Hopefully this turns out, and I'm just being really paranoid, but yeah, I've probably used 450 grams of epoxy now. So this thing would weigh about 800 grams. But other than that, everything went quite well. I actually didn't get any air leaks. I fully expected it to have some leaks show up, which you can see by bubbles going in through the plastic. This is actually kind of good news, and it's making me feel a little bit better. I don't have epoxy coming through here yet. There's absolutely none coming through. It has reached right here, and it's almost reached there, but I've used up almost 600 grams now. I actually think I'm gonna have to mix up a little bit more. And The epoxy isn't just shooting across, so it's not like it's just dumping out, so it must be sinking down into the part. It is now officially 1 hour since I started, and the part is fully infused, or infused all the way across. So I'm going to make a mark here for where it was after 1 hour. And I've used up that much epoxy. So I used up basically one of these cups almost full is 300 grams. So I've used probably, I would say, 500 grams of material now. So that is kind of good news. This is seriously my third attempt to film this clip. The first time the battery died. The second time I replaced the battery and the camera seized up. It says that it repaired the file, but normally when it says it repairs the file, the last of the clip doesn't have any audio, so I'm going to try this again. I mixed up another 50 grams of epoxy and put it in here. While I was degassing the epoxy, I had the inlet and outlet crimped off, and the epoxy was at this line, and it fully infused with both of the lines crimped off. So the epoxy flowed even though the lines were crimped off, which is good. I have now completely crimped off this line. The epoxy is getting dangerously low in the cup, and I don't want to start sucking air through, because that would definitely be a bad thing. So I'm going to continue to leave the vacuum on it and keep pulling epoxy through for a little while at least. There is still a little bit of air coming out, but yeah, it looks fairly promising. Gases coming out through this line doesn't necessarily mean that there's actually air in the fabric. It could be that the epoxy itself is degassing inside of the mold. It is currently just after 5 p.m. and I've turned the heat lamp on and crimped off both of the lines. Well, I already had that one crimped off, and now I've crimped this one off. And I guess that's it. I'm going to basically just wait now. Turn the light off, I guess. Yeah, slightly warm to the touch still. All right, I'm going to take it over to the table and start unbagging it. Not sure how much of this process I'm actually going to show, because I think I showed some of it last time, but anyway, let's get on with it. This took me 1 hour and 2 minutes. So before I try to get it out of the mold, what I'm actually going to do now is go check to see if the Jet Ski Brothers have uploaded a video for this Sunday. Jet Ski Brothers, 1 hour ago, uploaded a sea rat video. Yes. You guys heard that. Take your time. Take your time. All right, people, it's coming out. Are you ready? Are you ready to tell me if it worked? Oh wow, it peeled off. All right. YouTube, tell me, did it work? Now is the big moment. I haven't looked at it yet. You guys already know if it worked, but let's... Oh. It worked. It's not perfect, but it worked. Oh, I see. I thought these were bubbles. It probably looks like bubbles on the camera too. But what that is it actually pulled some of the polyester resin off of the mold. So it did work, 100%. It pulled a bunch of polyester off around here. I will show you guys. It pulled some of the polyester resin out of this area. Just goes to show how well that epoxy bonds. It pulled some epoxy out of here, all along here, and on here. All right, YouTube, this turned out pretty nice. It ended up getting bridging in a few areas and filling up with epoxy. Not terribly happy about that, but it is what it is. You can see, or maybe you can't see, but there's a little air pocket here and most of this area filled up with epoxy, and along this edge here there's also one little spot here that has a pool of epoxy on it. But all in all, it turned out really well. Same thing along here. There's a little bit of epoxy along that edge. I can sand that down and get down to the carbon and it'll be fine. But I have to do some trim work and clean this up a little bit, and then I will come back. I just had probably the most genius idea that I've ever had. What you are looking at is sandblasting cabinet and my carbon fiber part that I'm trimming up. The cabinet is completely enclosed and I can pull a vacuum, or I can turn the vacuum on. And so, yeah, I can grind away at stuff without having to breathe in any of the nasty dust or getting dust all over my shop. I've already trimmed off a bunch of pieces, and now I'm going to continue grinding this stuff off. Bam! I've spent pretty much all day working on this thing from 1:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. And it's not completely done. I still have a little bit of touch-up and polish work to do on it. Not that I'm going to do a whole lot of touch-up and polish work, but I'm going to do a little bit. I still need to drill the drain holes, and the reason why I left it for now is because I want to look back at the footage and see exactly where the unidirectional runs. I may be able to drill the holes out wide enough to actually avoid drilling through the unidirectional, although I don't think so. Anyway, I am extremely happy with the way this thing turned out. There are a few flaws in it, and I will show you guys that now. Nothing terribly critical, and definitely nothing that's going to affect the strength. And this thing is a beast. I don't know how much it would take to actually break this thing, but it is incredibly stiff and incredibly strong. I will show you guys the little flaws that are in it now. There's actually one here where a little bit of epoxy got in between the mold and the fibers, so obviously the carbon fiber pulled away from the mold a little bit, and there's just maybe like a millimeter of epoxy between the carbon weave and the mold surface. So you can't feel it, but you can see just a little discoloration through there. And the other thing is, basically all along these edges, the carbon didn't want to lay down into the mold because it's such a sharp bend here. I ended up with a little bit of an air pocket here. It is definitely not a problem. When I drilled out the hole, I could tell that the carbon fiber here was completely infused. And when you pick away at this, you can tell those aren't dry fibers. The fibers themselves got infused, but there is just a little air pocket there. So that is good. This thing is going to be insanely stiff and insanely strong. It's still not 100% cured yet, but already I can tell this is like 10 times stiffer than the fiberglass piece that I made. I have 2 layers of 6-ounce cloth to basically make it look pretty cosmetically on the top. And then underneath that, I have the unidirectional running widthways, 4 layers of 6-ounce, and then unidirectional running lengthways, 3 layers of 6-ounce, and then 1 layer of unidirectional again running widthways, and then 3 more layers of the 6-ounce to try to hide the print through on the bottom. Before I go any further, I'm going to throw this thing on the scale. I don't have an accurate enough scale to actually weigh the metal one. I weighed it today and it weighed, according to my scale, 5.7 pounds, but I think I weighed it the other day and it was 5.5 pounds. I actually marked it down here. Yeah, so the other day when I weighed it, it said 5.5 pounds, 2.5 kilograms, and now today it's telling me 5.7. What I can tell you is that this is less than half of the weight, and I'll show you guys that now. So keep in mind, this one is the real deal. 6 millimeters of carbon fiber, 3 layers of 1 millimeter unidirectional, and 12 layers of 6-ounce 2x2 twill. This is ridiculous. 1 pound, 14.8 ounces. That is insane. 873 grams, under a kilogram, and under 2 pounds. That is insane. I don't know what you guys think about this, but that is one sexy looking bed plate. I used a little bit of buffing compound on it. I have not put any coating on it or anything like that. There's no clear coat on it. There's no gel coat or extra epoxy. All I did was clean it up. I didn't wet sand it. I just ran a buffing wheel on a drill and a little bit of buffing compound. And this is what we have. That is beautiful. That just about does it for this video, but there are a few things that I wanted to say. First off, I am obviously extremely happy with the way this thing turned out, both cosmetically and structurally. Cosmetically, obviously it's not perfect, but that could be taken care of with a little bit of wet sanding and a clear coat. If you want that classic carbon fiber look that is glossy and has a nice depth to it, that is generally done with a clear coat or an epoxy over the top of it. I personally don't want that because 1, it's more work. 2, I like the look of this stuff. 3, this is actually a little bit more durable because the clear coat is likely to chip. And this actually weighs a few grams less, so I am going to leave mine like this. I've literally been trying to shoot this outro for over 2 hours. I killed one battery completely on my Hero 9, and my brain was feeling like a little bit of mush, so I went to watch the latest Jet Ski Brothers video. It's currently Monday, August 24th, and I get the horrible news that their jet ski has sunk. So if you're seeing this video, go watch the Jet Ski Brothers video, give them a thumbs up on it, and support them if you can, because Josh has poured a huge amount of work, time, money, and just a lot of time editing and making videos. So if you guys can support him in any way, go over to their channel and help them out. Leave a comment, say something positive. Because, yeah, I know that he can use it right now for sure. So keep your head up, Josh. Hoping that you can take care of whatever the problem is. And anxious but excited to see the next video to see what happened. So now into my own thing. I'm just going to try to get through this. If I screw up, I'm just going to keep going. I'm feeling really awkward because what I'm about to say is that I'm actually going to be selling some of these. I've got motorcycles and fire engines and airplanes buzzing around, and it's just been impossible to say what I'm trying to say. So a few of you have contacted me on YouTube and through Instagram wondering if I was going to sell some of these, and I finally got to the point where I feel comfortable selling some. They're not cosmetically perfect, but they are going to be structurally solid. For those of you who haven't been paying attention, 6 millimeters thick carbon fiber. It is 3 millimeters of unidirectional, 3 millimeters of 2x2 twill. And it does take me 3 days to make one of these currently. A lot of that just has to do with having to babysit everything and being paranoid that it's not going to work. So I assume that time will quicken. But as of now, I'm going to make a few of these and try to get ahead of myself. But as soon as this video goes out, I kind of have the feeling that maybe a few people will want them, and that's going to make it it's going to make it so that the wait for these is kind of a long time. But I got the material on order. It should be here by the end of the week, and I'm going to start prepping the mold, getting ready. So the next question that everybody's going to have is how much? So it takes me 3 days to make them. Obviously, I can't charge for my time because that would just be ridiculous. But I've decided that $400 US plus shipping is fair to me. As long as I enjoy doing it, then it's, and I don't account for my time, then I can get away with selling them that cheap. And it's a reasonable price for a part that is not going to have a warranty and hasn't been thoroughly tested. I am very confident that this is going to be an extremely solid piece, but of course my X2 isn't running, so I don't have the opportunity to actually test it on that. I'm going to leave my email address in the description of this video. Eventually I might try selling some on eBay if I can't sell many through YouTube, but I'm just going to announce it here so that my YouTube viewers have the first opportunity to get some. So I'm going to go and continue editing this video. It has been an extremely long one. I am extremely happy with the way this thing turned out, and it'll kind of be a little sad to let each one of them go because they truly are a beautiful thing. Anyway, for more details about buying one, contact me through email and we'll talk about it. That is going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Oh yeah, go support the Jet Ski Brothers.